My family kicked me out of my grandfather's funeral, accusing me of destroying the family. But when the lawyer read the will, they regretted everything. I, 28M, am the youngest grandchild in a massive extended family, and for most of my life, I was treated like I was this clueless kid who didn't belong. My father, mother, and uncles all worked for my grandfather's construction and home renovation business, which basically put food on the table for our entire family. Grandpa built that company from scratch. He was old school, strict, punctual, but fair in a no-nonsense way. I loved and respected him a lot because he was the only adult who ever gave me the time of day without an ounce of judgment. When I was around 15, I started noticing how my cousins got to do part-time work or small errands at Grandpa's business during summer. They would learn basic stuff like how to manage small tasks on a job site. Whenever I asked my father about doing the same, he'd shut me down with stuff like, "You're too immature. You'll only cause trouble." My mother backed him up, telling me I should focus on school and stay away from adult matters. It stung because I never saw them dismiss my cousins that way. It was like they wanted me nowhere near the family business. By the time I was 18, I was so tired of being treated like a problem child that I saved up enough cash from random summer jobs to get myself a tiny apartment near the local community college. The day I moved out, my father basically called me selfish. My mother went off about how ungrateful I was, abandoning the big family house we all shared. That house was ancient, technically owned by Grandpa, but inhabited by what felt like every relative under the sun. It was noisy, chaotic, and I hated having zero privacy. My father, though, took it personally, claiming I was turning my back on tradition. He kept telling me I was a disgrace for wanting independence. Grandpa, on the other hand, visited my new place a few times and always asked if I needed anything. I never asked him for money, just advice. He'd sit with me in a coffee shop and talk about how he'd started his company with next to nothing, how he learned from mistakes, and how he believed that honest work was the best path. He never forced me to come back to the family home, and I was so grateful for that. He'd say, "Follow your own road, but don't forget where you came from." I held on to those words. Fast forward to about a year ago, Grandpa's health began to fail. He ended up in the hospital a few times, and each time I visited, I get these cold stares from my father and mother. It was like they were pissed off that I even bothered showing up. One time I walked in and heard my father telling Grandpa that I was just there to put on a show. The moment I stepped into the room, I saw Grandpa's expression shift, like he was irritated at being pestered. My father just glared at me. I didn't want to make a scene, so I let it slide, but it definitely rubbed me the wrong way. Eventually, Grandpa was discharged, though he wasn't the same. He was weaker and needed a lot of rest. Everyone knew his time was running short. Suddenly, my father and uncles started hanging around him all the time, showering him with attention they'd never given him before. My mother was there constantly, making him food, which she rarely did in the past, and my uncles were dropping by to check on him daily. They acted like perfect angels. Meanwhile, they made it super clear that I wasn't welcome. My father would say stuff like, "You should call first before you drop by," and if I asked Grandpa if I could visit, it always had to be at odd hours, so I'd avoid running into them. It was obvious they were trying to keep me away. Then, one morning, I got the dreaded phone call. Grandpa passed away in his sleep. It tore me apart. He'd been my main support system for years. After hearing the news, I sat in my apartment in shock, hardly able to function. A friend came over to check on me because I was in such bad shape. I pulled myself together enough to attend the funeral, thinking that maybe, just maybe, my family would set aside our differences to honor Grandpa. I couldn't have been more wrong. The funeral was set for a weekend at this large funeral home with a chapel. The moment I walked in, wearing a simple black suit, my father intercepted me before I could even greet anyone. He told me, in this low, angry voice, "You're not welcome here." I just stared at him, thinking, this is my grandfather's funeral. What the hell? But my uncles and mother quickly joined in, accusing me of ruining the family, spouting random stuff about how I disrespected Grandpa's legacy. It was utter nonsense. They escorted me out of the chapel like I was some criminal. Some of my cousins and aunts looked mortified, but they couldn't stop what was happening. I left, embarrassed and furious, not wanting to create a massive scene at a funeral. Later, I found out my father told people that I'd refused to help pay Grandpa's medical bills. I had no idea he even needed financial help, and that I was talking shit about Grandpa behind his back, which was insane. It seemed like he was feeding the entire family these lies to make me look like some heartless jerk. I stewed in anger for days, replaying that funeral scene in my head. I couldn't believe they'd stooped so low. A few days after the funeral, I got a letter from Grandpa's lawyer, inviting me to the reading of the will. Part of me didn't want to go because I was so pissed about what happened at the funeral, but Grandpa would have wanted me there. I owed it to him to see it through. The lawyer's office was a small conference room. My father, mother, uncles, and some aunts were already there when I walked in. The tension hit me like a physical force. My father muttered something about me being a disgrace. I ignored him and took a seat. The lawyer cleared his throat and started reading the will. It began with Grandpa's personal statements about how he appreciated everyone in the family. Then it went through the usual distribution of assets, like the old family house, a couple of rental properties, some savings, personal items. My father and uncles got various properties. One uncle got the smaller rental units, another got something else. My mother got some heirlooms and a chunk of savings. My aunts got their share as well. Then the lawyer announced that the entire construction and home renovation business, shares, controlling rights, all of it, went to me. I'll never forget that hush that fell over the room. It was so quiet you could hear someone breathing. My father's face twisted in rage. My uncles were wide-eyed. My mother looked like she wanted to strangle someone. The lawyer kept reading, explaining that Grandpa had updated his will a few months ago, and there was medical proof he was of sound mind. He basically left the company to me because, in his words, I had a good head on my shoulders and a drive that reminded him of himself when he was younger. Everyone erupted in chaos. My father jumped up, yelling, "No way in hell Grandpa would do that. This has to be fake." My uncles were demanding the lawyer show them the real will. My mother shrieked about me stealing the family legacy. They accused me of manipulating Grandpa while he was sick. Meanwhile, I was just as shocked as they were because I had no clue Grandpa intended to leave the company to me. The lawyer calmly explained that it was all legal and properly notarized. He said if they wanted to contest it, they could try through probate court, but they need actual evidence to overturn it. My father lost his shit, slamming the table and yelling that he'd make my life hell if I didn't hand over control. I finally found my voice and said, I didn't do anything to influence Grandpa. This is all his choice. That just made them angrier. When the reading ended, everyone stormed out, except the lawyer and me. We went over some documents, and he told me Grandpa had put a lot of thought into this decision. I left feeling numb. Outside in the parking lot, my father and a couple of uncles surrounded me, screaming that I better give them what they deserved or they destroy my reputation. I stared them down and said, "Go for it. I'm not giving you anything." Then I got in my car and drove home. Over the next few days, I was bombarded by phone calls from relatives. Some were supportive, saying, "Look, you inherited the company fair and square, but watch your back." Others called me a traitor, insisting I needed to hand over control to my father, or at least split the ownership. My father told anyone who would listen that I was planning to sell the company and run off with the money, which was complete BS. I just wanted to figure out how to keep this business going in Grandpa's honor. Eventually, I had to show up at the company for the first time as the new owner. Talk about awkward. I walked into the main office, and the tension was thicker than concrete. Employees looked at me curiously, unsure what to expect. My father and uncles hovered around, shooting daggers in my direction. I called a brief meeting, introduced myself as the new boss, and assured everyone I wasn't planning any drastic changes. My father rolled his eyes, and one uncle muttered that they didn't need some rookie telling them how to do their jobs. After that group meeting, I asked just my father, uncles, and any other family members working there to stay behind. I calmly explained how this was going to work. Grandpa left me the company, and I intended to run it according to his principles: transparency, hard work, no shady deals. If they kept doing their jobs the right way, there'd be no problem. But if they tried any underhanded shit, I'd deal with it. They all glared at me, but stayed quiet. Then I went into what used to be Grandpa's office to collect myself. My father burst in a few minutes later, slamming the door and yelling, "You ungrateful little shit. Do you know how many years I put into this place?" He threatened to quit and start a competing firm, saying he'd take key employees with him. He said he'd bury me in the process. I kept my voice steady, telling him, "If you want to quit, go ahead. I'm not giving you majority control. It's Grandpa's will, not mine." He switched to emotional manipulation, whining that my mother was devastated and that I was tearing the family apart. I pointed out that he literally kicked me out of Grandpa's funeral and spread lies about me. Why should I trust him now? He stormed out, calling me every name in the book. Then the phone calls from extended family ramped up again, with people saying, "He's your father, do the right thing," and all that guilt tripping. I was pissed, exhausted, and honestly overwhelmed, but I refused to cave. A week or so later, the sabotage started. One of the senior managers, who was close to my father, began messing up orders, scheduling deliveries late, giving clients wrong quotes, basically causing chaos. Then he blamed me, telling other employees I was clueless. I found out when the logistics team showed me who'd actually signed off on the shipments. I confronted him with HR present and told him if he had evidence I was messing up, he should present it. Of course, he had nothing. He just kept saying I was incompetent. So I fired him. That's where shit really hit the fan. My father and mother blew up my phone, accusing me of going on a power trip. They said I was firing loyal family men just to look tough. I held a quick all-hands meeting to clarify that I wouldn't fire anyone who did their job ethically. But if anyone tried to sabotage the business, I wasn't going to tolerate it. A few employees told me privately that they were glad I got rid of that manager because he'd pulled shady stunts before. Things at the office started to settle a bit once people saw I was serious about running the place well, but the tension with my father and some uncles was through the roof. One uncle tried to hold up deliveries by telling drivers they needed his approval first. I caught wind of it, threatened to fire him if he didn't stop, and he backed off. Meanwhile, my father actually filed paperwork to contest Grandpa's will, claiming Grandpa wasn't mentally fit when he made me the heir. That got thrown out pretty fast because Grandpa had done all the medical evaluations required to prove he was sound of mind. My father had zero evidence, so the judge basically told him to drop it. You think that would stop him, but no. He started coming to my apartment at random hours, banging on the door, demanding I sign some family agreement that gave him partial ownership. He even tried to claim I owed him money for raising me. I told him to fuck off and never come back unless he wanted the cops called on him. My mother would stand behind him, nodding, saying I was cruel for not giving them what they deserved. It was beyond frustrating. The final straw for me was when I got called to the police station because of an anonymous tip claiming I was embezzling funds. It was a complete lie. I had to drag in so many documents, bank statements, payroll records, to prove nothing shady was going on. The police realized it was bogus pretty quickly, but rumors started swirling around town. I knew exactly who was behind it, my father. He was the only one with enough inside knowledge to create a halfway believable claim. I was so damn mad. That's when I decided to hit back with the full force of the law. I hired a good lawyer, compiled all the evidence of sabotage, emails, text messages, statements from employees who saw him meddling. We documented the attempted will contest, the false tip to the police, everything. Then we sent him a cease and desist letter, threatening a defamation lawsuit if he didn't stop. My father must have realized I wasn't playing around anymore because he showed up at my office, all fake friendly, claiming it was a big misunderstanding. He tried to act like a concerned parent, patting me on the back, saying we should keep the peace in the family. I wasn't having it. I said, after everything you pulled, the funeral stunt, the lies, the false police report, you don't pretend we're cool? You're only here because I can bury you in court. He tried to say he was just grieving Grandpa. I told him that didn't excuse months of sabotage and manipulation. I laid out the rules. He was free to keep working at the company if he stayed in line. If he pulled any more crap, I'd fire him and sue him for damages. My father asked, "You'd really do that to your own dad?" I reminded him, "You literally tried to have me arrested for embezzlement." So yeah, I will. He left my office furious, but he didn't quit. He probably realized he wouldn't get another job that paid as well and gave him the same status he enjoyed here. The uncles who were part of his little coalition also backed off once they saw the will wasn't going anywhere. Some of them still sulk, but at least they show up on time and do their work. I ended up meeting with each department head to figure out the best way to move forward. Most of the rank-and-file employees seem relieved that someone is finally laying down the law, even if that person is the kid of the family. I guess Grandpa's old-school ethic rubbed off on me more than anyone realized. My father tried one more half-assed attempt at forcing me to sign a contract giving him partial ownership, but my lawyer shut that down. I made it crystal clear that unless he had legitimate evidence of wrongdoing on my part, I wasn't giving him a damn thing. At this point, it's become a daily reality. I own the company, and my father and mother basically work under me. They hate it, but I think they also understand they've run out of tricks. And honestly, a big part of me feels this is perfect payback for how they humiliated me at Grandpa's funeral and spread lies. They spend their days in a place where I'm the one in charge, turning in budget reports or project updates to me. No special favors, no skipping protocols. If they don't like it, they can leave. But so far they haven't, which tells me they're swallowing their pride to keep collecting a paycheck. I know some people might think I'm being too harsh, but when I look at how they treated me, kicking me out of a funeral, lying about me, trying to destroy my life just to grab the company, I have zero guilt. I gave them a choice, be professional or get out. They chose to stay, so now they have to play by my rules. It's a twisted kind of justice. Through all this, I've been trying to keep Grandpa's core values at the heart of the business. We do solid work, we keep it honest, and we don't screw over clients or employees. I've got no intention of selling or folding. I actually want to grow the company, bring in some modern ideas, and maybe expand into new areas. The irony is that the family members who fought me the hardest stand to benefit if the business does well. But hey, that's not my concern. I'm doing this for Grandpa, for the employees who rely on us for a living, and for myself. Some of my cousins reached out and apologized, admitting they believed my father's lies at first. They said they were sorry for not having my back. I'm still wary, but I'm not out for revenge against everyone, just the ones who actively try to screw me. The rest, I can forgive, or at least tolerate. The ultimate revenge, though, is seeing how miserable my father and mother are every time they realize they have to follow my lead. It's like sweet poetic justice, especially after being told my whole life I was too stupid or immature to understand anything about the business. Turns out Grandpa was the only one who saw my potential, and he gave me the power to protect myself from their bullshit. I keep reminding myself that Grandpa trusted me with this responsibility, and I'm not going to let him down. I'm focusing on the work. I'm making sure the company doesn't just survive but thrives. So far, we're on a solid path. The sabotage has stopped, morale among the decent employees is improving, and we're even getting a few new clients through referrals because people appreciate the honesty I'm bringing to the table. Sure, there's still tension, but it's manageable now. I figure if my father, mother, and uncles want to stay employed, they'll behave. If not, they know where the door is. I used to think that family loyalty was automatic, that people would have your back just because you share blood. Clearly, that's not the case. But I've learned that sometimes the family you choose, like genuine friends who support you, matters way more than the one you're born into. It sucks that it had to go this way, but I'm glad I finally stood up for myself. Anyway, that's the story. I was literally booted from my own grandfather's funeral by my parents and relatives, accused of destroying the family, only to find out he left me the entire company. Now they're stuck working under me or risk losing their livelihood. It's messed up, but also satisfying in a karmic sense. I'm doing my best to honor Grandpa's memory by steering the company forward, and if any of them can't handle that, tough luck. Maybe they shouldn't have tried to screw me over in the first place. At the end of the day, I'm at peace with my choices. I know I earned this position because Grandpa believed in me, and that's enough motivation to make sure the company continues to grow. If my father and uncles regret everything they did, that's on them. I'm just here to do the job Grandpa left me, and if they want a piece of that success, they'll have to do their jobs the right way. No more bullshit, no more sabotage, and definitely no more family drama. If that's not sweet revenge, I don't know what is.